I want to take this opportunity to welcome everyone. I'll do this. Of those who do not understand the process, I'll be speaking in English, but then I can mix me and I'll just take this time to introduce our panelists. So for the DA, we have Representative Leandro Ngamisa. He's an agricultural economist. He holds a master's degree from the University of Stellenbosch. He has served as the SRC president of Stellenbosch University. He is a ward councillor and currently serves as a member of the Municipal Council for Corporate Services. He's passionate about fighting poverty and youth empowerment. Can you just raise his hand so that people can see him? And then we have a representative from the ANC, Ayan Atomose. Is Ward 12 councillor in Stellenbosch Municipality. He did financial management in Bolland College, joined ANC ranks when he joined COSAS. He became a provincial chair. He was also SASPO provincial secretary. He led ANC YL youth leagues, and then in the region. Then from 2014 to 2021, he was ANC branch secretary in Ward 12. He believes strongly in community and youth development. Can you just raise his hand so that people can see him? For the Good Party, we have Caden Argyle. He graduated from UCKAR in 2022 with an honors degree in political sciences and international relations. For the past 2 years, he has been the Good Party's researcher and speechwriter in the National Assembly. He is currently the Good Party's national youth representative. He has lived in 4 provinces and engaged in community service throughout. His political passions revolve around environmentalism, civil rights, starting with the most vulnerable, and job creation through a serious attempt to upgrade this country's infrastructure. Can you just raise his hand so that people can see him? And then for the ATM, we have Usi Kweseyamo. He studied LLB at UWC. He is an admitted attorney and conveyancer. He was born in the Eastern Cape in Mthatha, currently residing in Parklands, Cape Town, serving as the ATM Youth League provincial chairperson. Can you just raise his hand so that the people can see him? I also want to take this opportunity to welcome the Let's Talk team who has organized this event. We are all wearing white, so you can see us. We have Kanya, we have Shomla, we have Dimyoli, we have Nati, and then Kumbasa. So the first question that I want to ask is, before that, can they just have 3 minutes each to quickly give a short summary of the manifesto? We're going to start with the ATM and then finish with the ANC.
Thank you very much. Greetings to the House at large. I'd like to thank the opportunity given to the ATM. I'm already introduced, so I won't spend much time on that. As the African Transformation Movement, our manifesto is based on a variety of issues that are affecting our communities and the country at large. But key to that our response to the challenges that are faced with the country. We are saying that we are advocating for the transformation of the economy, particularly the microeconomy, that is the rural and the township economy, for the mass participation of our people and as active participants in that economy. So we want to ring-fence the microeconomy, that is the township and the rural economy, for the exclusive participation of the South African citizen. We want to say that, we also say that once we take these elections, we are going to take back all these things that we see that are hijacked. For example, some of you know that Bellville is known as a Somali town. We want to take back those buildings for the adequate housing of our people and the adequate housing of students. We want to also say that we want to respond to the issue of crime that is rampant in our community by introducing a high visibility of police force in the community, as well as increase the capacity and the resources that are within the police force. But key to that, we want to also say that once we are in power at the ATM, we are going to introduce a referendum for the reintroduction of the death penalty. And we say that this penalty, death penalty, is not an introduction of the death penalty as we know it, that has been abolished. But we are saying that we are going to introduce a referendum for a justice-based capital punishment or death penalty, if you so to speak. Key to that, we want to say that we are going to expropriate our land without compensation for the sole reason of economic participation, housing, and food security in our lifetime. As the ATM, we are underpinned by values of Ubuntu, peace, transformation, servant leadership, and accountability. In those, I think my time is up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing very well today, and I want to wish everyone a happy Labour Day, which we're obviously all here today, and thank the Let's Talk team for putting this together. Summarizing a manifesto in 3 minutes, never easy, because these things are usually 20 to 30 pages, as well as comprehensive ideas about how to take the country forward. So I'll try and summarize it as easily as I can. Good's manifesto has been described by journalists as one thing, and that is the party with the most attention to social justice in the country. That is a core belief of our entire party, and that breaks down into 4 different pillars: social justice, spatial justice, economic justice, and environmental justice. Through these 4 pillars, it is an easier way for us to get back on track in this country when it comes to getting the ideas and the legacies of apartheid completely removed from our society. Things that we still see all around us, such as the apartheid spatial planning that exists, especially in a place like this as well, where we go from one of the most exclusive and extremely rich areas into another area that doesn't have as much service delivery or as much attention by local municipal governments, etc. So when it comes to our policies, specifically, one of our core things in order to address economic injustice is the introduction of a basic income grant. This is an idea that has been seen to be successful, not just here, but it's also been seen to be successful in Kenya, in Namibia, and in places like Seattle in the United States. So Good believes that through a basic income grant, we can give people the dignity that they need so that they don't have to worry about the things that are increasing every single week: petrol, fuel, electricity, etc., food to put on your table for your family. These kind of things should not be a luxury, they should be an absolute necessity in everyone's life, and with that, a basic income grant gives you the identity and the belief that you can now go out and get more and do more and be more as well. Second thing with that is 100% the energy situation that we have in our country. It is a crisis, and it is also extremely reminiscent of apartheid spatial planning as well, because there are areas that are more hit by load shedding than others, and that is a fact in this country. Renewable energy, as well as integrating what we already have, saving the areas of our coal fleet that can be saved, investing in nuclear in the areas that it should, as well as rapid renewable integration, is vital for our country's economic growth. Things like housing as well is something that we need to talk about. The city of Cape Town and the areas around here have had 10 years to develop affordable spatial housing within the city, and they have not done so. And with that in mind, there's been areas that have been talked about for 10 years, and that was exposed and talked about on the IWOL debate yesterday. So there's so many different areas that we need to talk about when it comes to the manifesto, but spatial justice, economic justice, environmental justice, and at the end of the day, justice for all is what Good's entire principle is about, and where we want our legacy to live.
Yeah, thank you.
Diabolisa igama eziyoqala Luando Ndabisa uceba we-DA apha eStellenbosch. Before I continue with my 7-point plan of the manifesto, I just want to thank Councillor next to me, who's a colleague, and also Councillor Mjelka and Councillor Khalifa for the work they've done as Zone O. We all know Bana Chile Zone O, and one thing I liked is that we put down politics. No one cared about the politics. We're more focused on helping the land. And I think that is what we should do. We should not politicize because of the election. We should always try to work together. So I really want to thank you, Councillor, for your work there. That's the only good thing I'll say about you today. then I just want to focus on the DA 7-point plan. One of the plans the DA has is devolution of power. Now, I want to explain why is the DA fighting that provinces should be given more responsibilities and municipalities should be given even more responsibilities. One of the biggest problems we have in the Western Cape is sectarianism and crime. Now, that's not the mandate of the Western Cape government, it's the mandate of SAPS. However, I'll give an example about Kayamandi. We all know the police station Kayamandi. There are hardly 2 vans available. So now when I go to the police station, report the crime, nothing is going to happen. How will we fight crime in the Western Cape when SAPS is not doing its job? So now we are saying to Pelitene, give us the responsibility. Give us the responsibility of running police stations. Give the province the responsibility of running province. The same can be said about e-trains. Now, you remember that e-trains are used to run, but ever since COVID, e-trains, even namhlanje, as car running train, abantu ngoku are dependent on taxis. Now, imagine you are working in Stellenbosch, how much money are you spending on transport as compared to if there were trains? Again, the DA on their part is saying that national government, Minister of Transport, give us the responsibility. Now, we're not saying that we are perfect ourselves, but we're simply saying that we have a proven track record where we govern not only Upper Western Cape, the areas like Mgeni and the areas like Midval and Gauteng. Now, another thing that I want to focus on is jobs. Now, colleagues, we must agree on this. There's no way any business can create jobs if a company. That's why we need to first fix load shedding. That's why we also need to fix environment. You must remember in the Western Cape we're day zero. Remember in 2017, 18, 19, we're day zero. Not one day in the Western Cape a month and then value. You know why? Because we planned, we fixed it, we fixed everything. As we are speaking, are commands. So it shows that poor government, apart from climate change, yes, my colleague will say, the environmentalist, that climate change plays a part in that, but also poor governance adds into that. That's why we need to fix load shedding. Let me run through one last part. Okay, come on.
Thank you very much. To the host, I don't disrespect anyone, but I would like to sit. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity that we are given here by Let's Talk podcast. I want to start my presentation with a quote from Thabo Mbeki, which he just gave. I quote, when the ANC government took power over in 1994, it found nothing in office. The National Party shredded everything. When I came as a deputy president of South Africa, I found an empty office with a small old chairs and desk, not a single paper in office. No document were handed over, nothing. It meant there was no president. We, the ANC, built this country from scratch. We set up all institutions you see in this country. We set precedents as we build. I close quote.
When we started our manifesto at Rail, we went to all communities in South Africa, in all provinces, and asked South Africans to actually help us to review the manifesto that we did in the previous elections. The reason for that is because everyone, especially those that were fired in the ANC for corruption, when they talk about the ANC, they say the ANC has done nothing. Now we want to prove that more than what it's being said, we must go to the people and take mandate from the people. The ANC then gathered 5 things, which we then took as priorities in our manifesto. One put South Africa to work, which is our job plan. The second is build industries to archive an inclusive economy. The third one is to tackle high cost of living. The fourth one is to invest in people. The fifth one is to defend, advance freedom, build a better South Africa. Now, yes, thank you very much. We are planning. All right, thank you.
Youth voting. We have seen that the youth does not vote anymore, or actually there's been a decline in the youth voting. That's our main focus for the day. So my first question is, how does your party plan to engage and empower young people in the political process to encourage their participation in voting? I can start back to the ATM and then go back. The question is, how does your party plan to engage and empower young people in the political process to encourage their participation in voting?
Thank you very much. I think, please allow me to also sit down. I think this is a more conversation kind of setting. So as the African Transformation Movement, you have highlighted that we have a huge voter apathy, particularly in the youth space. But what we have done as the ATM is to actually inculcate a culture of the youth being involved in their decision making and the direction in which the country is taking. As you would see that they dedicated me, I'm a youth person, to come and represent the ATM. I mean, there are older people that would have been better positioned to deliver the ATM manifesto, but it says a lot about the faith that the organization has in the youth and the direction that the youth must be involved in taking the country. You would know that ATM is the youngest presidential candidate contesting the national elections. Again, it speaks to the culture of the organization that we want a youth that is involved, because for a very long time the youth has been ignored and the youth has developed some sort of a negative perceptions towards the governance and the politics of the country. This is precisely because of the failing ruling party that has created a despondent youth, and a youth that is only dependent on the grants, and a youth that is only dependent on handouts from the ruling party. So as the ATM was saying that we want to create a youth that is involved in the decision making, not only in voting, but also in the process after the voting, which is the decision making and the laws making, the consultation processes that happen when we are enacting laws in parliament. So it is not enough as the ATM to say that we are encouraging the youth to vote and the youth to be registered to vote, but we are saying that post-elections, let us have a youth that is engaged, that is involved in the politics of the country, not a youth that will only look forward to politics when we go and vote in the next 5 years. So that is the program that we are embarking on as the ATM, but to also say that we, as soon as we are in power and we are ruling the country, we are saying that we have youth programs whereby we are allowing the youth to own the economy of the country in their various spaces. Right now, the position of the country is that even spaza shops in our ships are owned by foreign nationals. So we're saying that those are the kinds of economies that should be exclusively reserved for our youth in order to create a living for themselves, that will make them participants in the economy. But key to that, not only the microeconomy, we are saying that as the ATM, we want the macroeconomy, especially the mineral reserves of the country, to be processed within the borders of the country so that the youth can be involved in that process and thereby create jobs within that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
When talking about the youth, and especially this upcoming elections, I think there's one thing that we also need to consider with this narrative
About 20
of
minutes,
youth
uzandinika
not being,
ngo-40.
being apathetic to the vote, is
Ah,
that
nathi yabo.
since 1994, this is the most registered voters that we've had in this country's history. Which means that as much as there's not the entirety of the country that we want, we are making steps and we are making progress in including everyone and showing that your voice does matter. And I think with youth, I mean, I can obviously use myself as an example. Straight out of university, trust, put into a National Assembly research position, and now I sit number 8 on the National Assembly candidate list for my party at age 25. And if that's not level of trust, I don't know what is. So when it comes to youth as well, you also have to look at your policies. Because are your policies populist? Are they for now? Are they for things saying, I'm going to promise X amount of jobs, I'm going to promise X amount of lands? Or are you actually giving a plan? Because I promise you, from being, I think, the youngest person here on this thing, there's a lot of people in this country that I've interacted from communities in all 4 provinces that I've lived in and that I've engaged in. And what they want is a plan. They want structure, and they don't want to hear any more promises. And I believe that good, in terms of our policies, really, show that. We speak about things such as environmentalism, which is massively core to our party in one of our 4 pillars, which is obviously a massive issue for the youth. Because if there is no earth, then there is no future for the youth. So that's its own thing. Secondly, the idea of job creation in this country is imperative. We are seeing the youth being left behind week by week. And we have literally seen stories come out this last week of 7 girls in KZN who have said that they've been forced into prostitution because of NASFAS payments not being cleared. If you listen to that story right now, that should make you angry, it should make you emotive. And that's the kind of reality that the youth have, being left behind due to government inequality as well as inefficiency. And with that, we have people who are literally having to society and corruption, and the people who are not actually putting in plan what they're talking about. Good?
Thank you. Look, this question is a very tough one because if you look at South Africa's youth voter turnout, especially in the 2000s, 2019, for example, the demographic between 18 and 24, they were the least voting demographic than any other demographic. The biggest voting demographic was people above 50. Now, there are various reasons, and my colleagues have touched into those reasons behind why young people are not voting and are not intending to vote and all of those things. But I think one of them is just not being employed, because if you are paying tax, for example, you want to care about how your tax money is being spent. But when you look at the number of unemployed South Africans, which is the highest in the world, I don't think we can blame young people for not wanting to get involved. I think that we young people who are also in politics, we need to do our level best to ensure that the policies we pass, be it in council, be it in our parties, are speaking into the issues that young people on the ground are facing. Now, speaking about that, I think also we need to demonstrate as political parties that we genuinely care about young people, not only as voters, but also consider them as partners. I'll give an example. In Stellenbosch Council, which my colleague will know, is that in the mayoral committee, there are 4 people under 31. Now, that's very important. It's important that young people like myself are not only seen when it's time to go campaign, but also are seen as having skills that they can contribute. The same can be said in Parliament. I mean, we've got a number of young people there, but I know that's not enough. We need to do way beyond that. And I think it's what my colleague was saying. We need to stop being populistic, because of when we are making these policies, it's not young people's future which is being damaged. If we are constantly borrowing money, for example, who's going to pay that money? It's going to be paid by the future workers of South Africa, which are young people now. So I think as young people also, we need to hold politicians to account. You can't give me a t-shirt and 12 comma and make me to vote for your party while you're 30 years to give me a job. It simply cannot happen. Be paid by a t-shirt. us young people also must hold politicians into a higher standard. And I am very, very happy with the democracy my colleague was speaking about. We call them AMA 2000. AMA 2000 are different generations than us, born free and all of those things. They are involved on TikTok, they are involved, they are following things. These guys, what here, AMA 2000, they are creating conversations and all of them. Perhaps if AMA 2000, like these colleagues here, can continue in this trend to hold politicians to account and force us to have these conversations. Lastly, if you look at crime rate, for example, who are the most killed people in this country? It's young people. Who are the most raped people in this country? It's young people. Every socio-economic problem, it's always worse when it comes to young people. So I think it's important for us young people to take ourselves seriously first and hold politicians to account. While coming here, I was in the car, I was speaking to this guy. I asked him if he's going to vote. He's like, no, he won't vote. I asked him why. He's like, because the ANC is failing. I'm like, but there are other political parties. He's like, nah, I don't trust the other political parties. Now, you are giving power to the ANC if you're saying that. There are over 50 political parties in the ballot. So as a young person, you really, 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 really have to go and punish this uncaring ANC up to now of May.
Thank you very much. Okay. The reason young people do not want to go out and cast their vote, there are so many. One, they're faced with unemployment. Two, they're faced with inequality. Three, they're faced with crime. If you check stats of South Africa, Western Cape is the leading province in terms of crime. And you find people in administration always blaming government which is sitting in Pretoria for crime that is happening in the Western Cape. People are blaming other people for responsibilities that they're supposed to be taking. And young people are fed up of that. And young people are fed up of us, young people, going to young people and say, you must go and vote, and promise those people jobs. After voting, young people do not see the opportunities that they were promised when we were used to go and ask them to vote. Those are the reasons young people are not voting. If you check the population of young people who are unemployed in South Africa, most population comes from the Western Cape in the Cape Islands, where we are. But the leading party in the province and in the region has a reason for it. And they will definitely say, ANC is failing sitting in Pretoria while they're seated here in the Western Cape and doing nothing. The Western Cape government is using young people for EPWP workers. They never employ them. The Western Cape government has a reason why there's crime in Kayamandi and not crime in Dibord. They will tell you that it's government. My fellow colleague was saying Kayamandi police station, but we are seated here and there are people who need jobs and there's law enforcement in town. They will hire 7 of you and make you EPWP workers and hire 2 permanent staff. What is that? Now, the very same government which claims clean audit every time when the auditor general comes, they take money from national government which is supposed to be meant to be spent on young people. They do not spend it because they want to spend wisely. Then they take that money back so that they can have clean audit. The reason we are seen as corrupt is because we make sure as ANC that each and every cent that is meant for the people is spent. Then they come back and say, no, because you are spending more, you do not have clean audit. Those are the things that make us to be fed up to go out and vote. But we must be conscious of people who does not want to listen to other people. They start making noise so that they do not get the point. We want to teach them. Thank you very much.
It's tough. This colleague of mine, we are both councillors, is that? And fully well what he's saying. Now I'm gonna just go a couple of mistakes. I'm gonna take notes. Cape is not the highest crime rate in South Africa. Nyanga used to be the police station with the highest number of murders. It's not now. It's NMB. This Mandela Bay. Check your stats. Unemployment rate. It's lowest in the Western Cape. It's lower than anywhere else in the Western Cape. And then they're telling us that the Western Cape government is
Somebody comment.
You had 30 years to get jobs from the city, and they're doing it for you now.
ANC is doing the same in other places. Which is not it didn't even answer the question that was asked. I got channel put it. He didn't answer the question that was asked about.
Police station, we have no power over
being
that.
defensive.
You know, for the Committee Committee, Diamond Police Station, list is up. We've been asking SAPS to renew their list. They are not willing. We could have closed down the police station if we didn't care, but we care. We have not closed down. They have not paid a cent in the past 3 years. We didn't close it down. Lastly, clean audits. Now you're going to tell me if we don't steal money, which is the taxpayers' money, that's all for us to steal money? Now we steal money and
Hi, boy.
Initiatives that the party has in place to address the unique challenges faced by South African youth and ensure their voices are heard in decision-making process. Keyword, their voices are heard in decision-making process.
Thank you very much. As we are seated here, the stats for Western Cape in terms of unemployment is sitting at 20%, 3 out of 100%. Now, the question is, what is it that we would want to do? If I can
This ANC fellow is a
Thank you very much.
You are
That's good in terms of cooking numbers, so they will definitely do this.
This
And
is a fellow
we must accept
what he's
that
saying
we
is
don't have such powers. So the ANC
answer the
is
question.
the national ensure
Interesting.
that young people that goes into parliament is 40% from the 200 of people sent to parliament. 40% of it is young people. We are trying to give young people a chance to be part of ensuring that we change the status quo in the country. We also want to increase the support for small enterprises, entrepreneurs and cooperatives, especially in townships and villages. The reason we want to ensure that we supply support to businesses in townships and villages, it's simply because these areas are really neglected by sitting councils, sitting administration in provinces, and also the national government is not doing as much as it can. And one of the things that we are doing as the ANC, we want to admit in the wrongs that have been done in the past. We are saying, yes, we have not done as much that we could have done in the past, and we must change that. So in ensuring that, we are saying in the first priority, we will ensure that we do our maximum power to ensure that young people in townships and in villages are empowered to actually sustain their living without being employed by the municipality with EPWP workers, which is at least 3,500. We do not ask them to hire people, replace permanent staff with EPWPs. We don't do that. He is saying they could have closed that down the police station, but he just said they do not have powers. But he is saying we could have closed it down. But we're not going to go there because they are good in cooking numbers. they've put even the numbers of people that are actually working. They are saying the Western Cape is leading, but we know very well that in rural areas, in townships, many young people are sitting next to corners and nothing is happening. That is what we are talking about. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. I'm hearing a lot of, there's a lot of tension on this side of the stage. I think, the first thing to remember, especially when we have, these two parties, these are the two oldest parties in terms of their status, with their amount of time they've had, the amount of governance they've had. So when they come here and they are fighting with each other and saying, you did this or you did that, and then they're pointing fingers. I've worked in the National Assembly for 2 years. All I can say is numbers for both of you don't lie. So, it's easy to point out and say this and say that. But in reality, what the question is what plans do we have for young people? Not how did you fail or how did you fail? Once again, what did I say? Politicking rather than plans. Plans, as I said, basic income grant is something that has been shown to have worked in multiple African emerging economies. It is something that gives young people dignity. It is the money that lets you go and take the taxi into town for your interview. It is the money that lets you buy the suit for the job. Or it's the money that allows you to not worry about your groceries, your electricities, and your transport for 1 week, so that you can have the dignity to go work. Because what do we work for? Why do we buy? Why do we have jobs? Are we in such a capitalist society that we just go to earn money, to spend on what we need to survive, and then go to sleep and then die at some age? That is a boring and nihilistic society. A basic income grant allows you the space so that you can spend money. It's not a handout, it's not a charity, because that money is going into that area and developing it through local economy. And it's something that young people can work with, and it's something that gives them dignity. Secondly, we have so many emerging sectors in this country that are just not being properly evaluated yet or exploited because they should be. That's how easy it is. The ANC government last year spent 1 billion rand importing solar panels from China. There's nothing unique about that technology that cannot be made in this country. That is a perfect sector for rapid manufacturing and rapid restructuring that can employ thousands of South Africans across the country. On top of that, our tourism industry is booming post-COVID. The more investment that we do into that, the more young people that can go into the sector, because it is something that is easily trainable in many of these colleges that are the only options for so many South Africans that have never had the economic opportunity to go to a university, to attend a private school, to do any of these kind of things. So Good believes firmly in not politicking, not pointing at fingers. We will be the people in the middle of the room, literally, and we will say that at the end of the day, the people and the plan is what this election should be about. That is what this 2024 is, and that is why it is a 1994 again. Thank you.
Again, my colleague here has expressed that it's very heated on that side. But it goes to what I usually, or a familiar saying that says, when elephants fight, it is the ground that suffers, or it is the grass that suffers. So similar instance, when you have people that are seemingly should be in power and are not actually providing solutions to the social ills and the challenges that are faced by the society, we have a problem that the country does not move forward. So as the African Transformation Movement, what we're saying to alleviate the challenges that are faced by the youth is to actually address the education system. To say that the education system that we currently have is not producing skills and qualifications that are a need or a response to the economic needs in our country currently. For example, you have people that have studied and graduated, for example, law. But you see that there's no need for more lawyers in our society or in our economy. So we need a skills-based education system that will actually make these young people that are graduating out of university to have a particular skill that they can use in order to sustain themselves. Now, that means that then the government of the ATM will not only produce or create this skills-based education system, but will say if we are producing plumbers and people who can do plumbing, it's a skills-based education, and now this person is opening up in their shop or a plumbing company. The government spending of the ATM will be 50% towards the small medium enterprises, to say that we do not need a government that spends more billions and millions in these big corporates and those well-established companies, but we need a youth that starts their own companies, and we need a government that has confidence in their youth and actually invests their spending in the companies of the young people of South Africa. Key to that, we also want to say that we want to introduce free education, because this education that is skill-based, it must be free, it must be decolonized, and it must be compulsory, so that we know that our youth is a youth that has been educated in a relevant skills that can be utilized by the economy. Now, I said that earlier on in my delivery, that the ATM will create a government that expropriated the mines. Now, in order to address or to respond to that, we need people who has the necessary skills to do the mining. We need necessary people to process the raw materials. We need people to finish the raw material and to finish products so that we can export them to the outside countries. Okay. Now, the last point I want to raise in terms of the policy of the ATM is the consultation process that we are going to embark on after elections and during this election process, to hear the views and the voice of the young people of South Africa. In order, we know that our position are a direct response to the needs of the young people of South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In terms of the question about young people, I want to answer it in this sense. There's a poll which was done by Ipsos. Ipsos showed that amongst young voters, the most important issue or policy issue was jobs. The thing they cared the most about, more than anything compared to other demographics. And now we know the scourge of unemployment, youth unemployment in South Africa, and all of those things. Now, we need to focus more on that. And actually, the DA manifesto speaks into that. For example, what the DA is saying is that there's been evidence that if you're actively looking for work, you need to spend at least 1,000 rands. And that money goes into transport, that money goes into printing, that money goes into data. So now, if we want to encourage young South Africans to look actively for jobs, we need to assist them. Now, here in the Western Cape, Premier Alan Winde has actually done a pilot project. It's called Job Seekers Support, where a young person, if they are going for an interview, they will get a voucher from the department, and then they can use that voucher for a week for interviews and all of those things. Now, this is just one small thing we need to do. The DA also speaks about those 350s, that we need to change those 350s and make them a job seekers fund. Anyone who's looking for a job needs to be able to go to SASSA, register, and then use that to actively look for a job. Now, another problem we have, I think one of the colleagues touched into, is the lack of graduates who are unemployed. We are telling young people that study hard, pass your matric with good marks, go to university or a TVET, the world will be open for you. But we see a reality of young graduates. I mean, I remember in Durban recently, doctors, medical doctors were marching because they could not be employed. The Minister of Social Development did say that earlier this year that close to 9,000 social workers are unemployed. Now we are telling South Africans to study and all of those things. So we have to fix those things. Similar to what my colleague was talking about, NSFAS. NSFAS is a mess itself in the university area this year. 45 students finished the first quarter without houses. How do you go to class if you don't have a place to sleep? How do you start if you don't have a place to sleep? So I think we need to focus more in such things. But to close on that point, We have to hold our ministers to account. We simply cannot. Every election, now I'm going to refer to my colleague again, every election, we're being promised jobs, every election, but unemployment rate in every election is going up. In closing, actually, I've asked the presenters if they can go to fact check, because I don't want to seem as if I'm lying to you, to actually check this notion that my colleague is speaking about, that the Western Cape has the highest unemployment rate. I'm hoping that they will be able to assist us on that.
Okay, so this question is directed to the ATM. You mentioned that you're going to bring back the death penalty, and in my understanding, you're also a Christian-based political party. Am I correct? You're not. But like, how?
Yes, no, which one is it?
Because that's what I take you are a Christian-based political party. But can you explain more on the death penalty, because a lot of people don't really agree with that.
Thank you very much. I think must at first address that the ATM is not a Christian party, or it's a Christian-based party. The African Transformation Movement is a faith-based political party, and by that I mean that it is a party that is open to all faith-based organizations or faith-based people. Yes, I know that there is an understanding that we are a Christian party, but that only refers to the roots of the party. The party was formed by various churches that came together and said, let us change the course of direction of the country. But in consultation with religious faith groups and traditional leaders,
I'm tempted to give my vote.
said we don't need another
ATM
Christian
seems to be
party.
the
We
only
don't
one
need
able
another
to
party that
give
only advocates for a certain denomination or a certain category of people in the society. But we need a party that is going to advocate for the position and the betterment of the entire society. So we are a party that is open to even atheists, even traditional leaders are part of the organization. Now that is aside, we are saying that we want to reintroduce justice-based capital punishment, which is the death penalty, in the sense that this justice-based capital punishment will be for repeat offenders and for offenders of serious crimes such as murders and rape. Because it is our position that if you murder someone and you come and claim that you have a right to life, where was the right to life for that particular person that you have murdered? So we are saying that that will act as a deterrent and actually as a sufficient punishment for such crimes of rape. Because, for example, we have people that are committing rape, and you find that they are serial rapists, but they go and languish in Baltimore, and they are fed by our taxpayers, and they are fed by the people that actually offended them. Thank you very much. If I had time, I would elaborate on that as well.
This question is directed to the ANC. Now, how will your party work to increase representation of young people in leadership positions within the party and in government? Because we all know most people think that the ANC is full with old people, and those people do not know how to solve the current problems. So, what's your response to that?
Thank you very much.
In the early 2012, the ANC clique, in fact, tried to change policies of the ANC and spoke about generational mix. When they spoke about that, it was not necessarily to say they want to get rid of old people in the ranks of the ANC, but they wanted youth representation in ANC ranks. Then they spoke about 20% of young youth representation, and then then NEC was disbanded for series of things. And when the ANC clique then regained its leadership, electing proper leadership, they then again spoke about the issue of generational mix. As we are sitting we have sent 40% of youth representation into parliament. And I think you have also mentioned in my introduction that I've led the ANC in my branch for 4 consecutive terms as a branch secretary. So those were the things that drive us to ensure that young people do go into leadership, but we put in cognizance the fact that we cannot just go and lead as young people. We need old minds to assist us also to shape the policies that we would want to implement as young people. Because the ANC Youth League, one of its role is to ensure that it shapes policies of the ANC. Thank you very much.
Okay, this question is directed to the Good Party. So, what strategies does your party have in place to actively involve young people in the policy making and decision making of the process and the party?
Interesting, yeah. So we had our inaugural NLC leadership thing that happened last year, and with that, it was really interesting because being a newer party, I think being the youngest party on the floor right now from 2019, we contested the election 6 months before it happened, and everyone said we were crazy, we were not going to get it, and we are in the National Assembly. And with that in mind, that was a on the ground movement, ground level movement. And with that, it required a lot of youth, and it required a lot of youthful energy, that's for sure. And now when we get to this new stage and we've had our first NLC, it was lovely because not only was anyone allowed who were interested in talking about, one of the different points in our plan, could come up and speak, get criticism or get constructive criticism, could get feedback, or could absolutely just hate something. And that was the freedom that we had in the session where we basically all stood around and we said, okay, 500 people in a room, hear all of the proposals of different aspects, talk. And young people you'll find in those environments are very talkative. If you give them a mic and if you say to them, hey, we're going to give you the freedom to speak your mind and not feel like you are now going to get fired or you're not going to be able to get promoted, whatever it is, that is fantastic. And with the way that our NLC is structured, you'll see it's not only diverse in terms of age, but on top of that, it's diverse in terms of ideologies. Because at the end of the day, the youth has to be the next generation that carries this country forward. Because as we've all seen, and as it's been clearly expressed by everyone on this panel today, and I'm sure in the next panel as well, the state that we are in right now is not anything that any South African should want for the next 20 years. And with that in mind, as I said, the policy making process is extremely important to us, and there was ideas where it came to things such as climate change and the renewable energy, and I, for one, led a team of young people when we were discussing that with the NLC, and that's part of our manifesto, and all of that work is done through us. So I think it's all about that, is including not only the ideas into your manifesto, into your policies, but also acting out on those ideas, as well as incorporating those people to speak about those ideas and defend their points, because it's very easy to just say, this is, the kind of youthful policy that you have. But if you're not actually growing these youth into politicians and people who can care about their communities and represent their communities well, then the point is just being missed. Thanks.
The last question is directed to the DA. I heard that the DA is planning on creating 2 million new jobs for South Africans to improve the economy. So I want to know, how are you going to achieve that, and why do you think it's a realistic goal?
Thank you. It's not to create just 2 million jobs, because if you look at the number of unemployed in South Africa, you will see that it's way above 2 million. But we are saying that 2 million jobs. Is that okay? Thank you. So now I've already did explain some of the things that we are focusing on. I did explain that, for example, in order to create jobs in industries, we need to solve ESCOM. I already explained that we need to provide water security. I've already explained that we need to improve time. I've already said that we need to improve skills and development. And but one last part, but the last part, is it okay? Can I continue? Okay. Then one last part that I think that we need to focus on is about justice and consequences.
I'll give an example that we all know here about the Guptas, for example. Now, we know from the commission that, we know from the Zondo Commission how much money was stolen in the state capture period. Now, we need to be able to prosecute those people and regain that money. It's one thing someone being sent when they stole money, but that money must be taken back into the coffers of the state. Now, that's why we want to empower NPA, we want to empower SAPS, and also one, two, I think fine now.
All right.
1, 2, okay. Then one last point, which I'm sure the Democrats are fully aware about, is that we want to reinstate scorpions. I'm not sure, maybe the older people who are here in the room remember scorpions. Do you remember the time when politicians were scared of stealing money because there were scorpions? And scorpions' focus was purely on the corrupt politicians and public servants. Now, they disbanded scorpions because of what was attacking former President Zuma's people. We want to reinstate that agency so that we can focus on corruption. We can't be public servants and be stealing from the very same people we are supposed to be serving. So, and we want to lead by example. Now, he quoted President Mbeki in the beginning, and President Mbeki, there's something you mentioned recently about what we could call it capital flight. The amount of money that is unlawfully leaving South Africa, be it funding gangsterism or funding terrorism and all of those things. That is the money which is supposed to be circulating in our country to be creating jobs and everything. But that money is going to other countries which are being funded, like Somalia, where there are terrorism attacks and all of those things. That's why we need to strengthen our justice system. That's why we need to strengthen our security system. One last point, prisons. Prisons in South Africa are functioning as a recruitment centers for gangsterism. A child goes to prison stealing a sweet, comes back as a gangster with numbers. Our prison system is supposed to help crime offenders to reform. They need to go there and get better, but they get worse because our prisons are overcrowded. Our prisons are actually ran by the criminals themselves. You see them on TikTok, someone will do a live TikTok in Polsmo. Now, how can that person claim that they're becoming better? So we want to focus more on law and order as the DA in order to ensure that we create these 2 million jobs, because we cannot continue pouring more money on a leaking MR. We need to fix the MR, then we will pour more water on it.
Okay, we're going to our second session now. Not second session, but like the questions and answers section. So if nombuzo, pakamisa nje isandla and imfundo zozakuthi ngikubuza umbuzo wami.
Okay, morning people. My question is directed towards Councillor Thomas. You said the ANC is seen as corrupt, right? Okay, do you think that, let me relieve that one. You said, for another quick thing you said last, the ANC is using the money, right? In 2020, if I remember correctly, the national government borrowed 500 billion. Can you at least tell me 5 things which it was spent on?
Okay, modern Bashar. Okay, firstly, man, I think I must acknowledge whoever organized this thing, man. It's beautiful, guys, man. I don't know who organized it. I was invited by Kanye, so I'm here. You see, I think young people, man, one thing that we need to focus on, man, because you see what happened. We have got a challenge in South Africa, mainly in politics, the issue of ethics. There are no ethics at all. Let me just do an example. I'm listening to the councillor of the DA and the one of the ANC, just to highlight the issue of the ethics. That is not there. Obviously, the councillor of the DA is highlighting all the issues that made young people not to be interested in politics. And the ANC guy also is also, Thomas, and is also mentioning the same thing. If you can bring that one to reality, I'm just giving an example now. The DA is busy on local conduct, is busy with draft now. The draft is out. How many young people are going to be there? Young people are not going to be there. You see, office is the issue of young people, not necessarily really politics. It's issue that we need to put diagnostically focus on. So my question now is one, in all the political parties, the issue of the ethics. How do we address the issue of the ethics within the political parties? Thanks. In all the political parties, because as I'm saying now, it's the issue of ethics. Look on the sermon that take too long. Let me just give an example of the issue of ethics here. If let's happen the issue, let's say the gentleman is raising something, whether it's positive or negative, he's got the support of his members. Same with the issue of the ANC. It's not about really about it's not about the issue, but rather what you say. As I'm saying that it's the issue of ethics, man. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry, Brahman, you put pressure on me.
Question, not statement. Okay. Mine goes to ANC, but for reasons we'll explain later, I choose to speak in this course. Thomas uthi xa uthetha ukolota bombheki, but ndicela understand izitha bombheki umbheki uyilibele uba on the 5th of July 2005 i-Nationalist Party yajoina i-ANC, because those people abanganikanga ndawo are comrades. Okwesibini, nohluke njani kwi-DA ne-ANC? How do you differ, particularly ngokwe-choices enizenzayo kwi-macroeconomic policies ezi-neoliberal ne-ANC? Nohluke njani ne-DA? Because
question, not statement.
I've only got two questions, one for the good and one for ANC. Mr. Thomas, why did it only took ANC 30 years to realize that you guys could have done more? For the good candidate, you stated that we need to be more on social grants and everything, how effective it is. And you also mentioned that it could help one to buy food, to make. My question straight to you is, do you know how much is old age grant? Do you know how much is the social grant? And also, do you know how much it is for an unemployed person grant?
Okay, thank you very much. My question is based on DA. As they said, they will be creating 2 million working opportunities. I would love to know how they're going to ensure that these opportunities are only ring-fenced for the South Africans. Because what I know currently, they are in the Western Cape, there are 70% of opportunities that are occupied by the foreign citizens. So how are they going to ensure that these opportunities are ring-fenced for the South Africans only? Thank you.
Malweni. So my question is directed to EDA. So they spoke about the stealing of unlawful transfers of money that is being lost. My question is, why not suspend government officials who are suspected in any criminal activities to gain trust of the public?
Thank you for that question, Tata. It's a question that seemingly as political parties we shy away from, the question of ethics. The African Transformation Movement is a political party that is based on 5 principles and values. The value of peace, Ubuntu, transformation, servant leadership, and accountability. Now, you can also interpret that as the ethical principles of the party. So I think we are the only party that is a values-driven political party in South Africa. And the value or the issue of ethics, we cover it in terms of the principle of servant leadership. In other words, in the ATM, we refer to each other as servants, not as comrades or fighters, and as well as all the other, names and Democrats and all that. Yeah. But we refer to ourselves as servants because we understand the principle of leadership is about a responsibility that you have been given. Now, if you understand that you have been given a responsibility, it means that you will be ethical in your approach in the issues of governance. We won't find that you are given, there's a tender of 50 million and you own that you must build a road somewhere, and only find that out of the 50 million you have been given that has been assigned for that project, only 5 or 1 million will go towards the issue of that project that has been assigned. The whole other amount is just distributed amongst your families and friends and whatever. So we understand that the value of values-driven politics, the principle of ethics is underpinned by being a servant. If you are a servant of the people, you understand that it is the people first before yourself. Now, also the issue of transformation, because we understand the principle of the current economic structures, of the lack of ethics, we are here to transform the current political sphere, and that is driven or underpinned by the principle of transformation in our values. Thank you.
So yeah, ethics, when it comes to the Good Party, I'll give you an example. Obviously being a new party, we have a multitude of different laws and different things in our charter to basically hold people accountable. One of our ex-members, who now works for my colleague on the right, basically had an investigation due to allegations, for example, of being a sexual pest, and these allegations were handled. They had the people basically get scouted from outside, brought in, independent people who are basically judging these different kind of candidates, so it's not like an internal party policy, and then that person was fired. And that will all happen about a month. So, and this person was pretty high up in our provincial standpoints and had a lot of big structure and good. And this person is no longer working for us, they're working for the DA now. But with that in mind, it's, you have to have this form of discipline with ethics in any party, because on top of that, we also have a lot of parties that we are seeing now with a lot of big families behind them, funding-wise. And with that in mind, you also don't know what stance is being taken on because of they care about you as a person, or because someone who is more rich and more important than you is telling you what you should be saying, what you should not be doing. And I think the case of the genocide happening in Gaza right now is a perfect example of that. With that in mind as well, I think when it comes to ethics, you also need to have the ability to have open and clear financial statements, which is something that Good does do, and it's part of it as well. And also I think when it comes to the accountability, it also goes back to the kind of person that you are trying to be when you are a politician. Are you a politician who's working for me or for thee? And that is the kind of thing that Good is interested in. We're not interested in simply just having as many people in party as possible, getting as much Western Cape representation as possible. We're about growing and being on the ground and being visible and showing through our actions that we can be held accountable through ethics. And if there's any other aspect that you'd love to talk about with ethics, I would love to have a private conversation afterwards as well.
Thank you very much. Each and every organization, when they take power, it does not really mean that as perfect as we want as society. I must agree, yes, most of us are curious that why did it take more than 20 years to 30 years for the ANC to realize most of these things that we are now trying to fix. I think it would be, dishonest to respond on that, because it takes an ethical person to do what that person is expected from the person. And we must be realistic to say the ANC deployed so many people and they never showed any ethical conduct in power. When we actually noticed that we are now in trouble because there are so many unethical leaders, we then formed what is called the Integrity Committee within the National Executive Committee of the ANC. So once you have done something that is unethical, you go and respond to the Integrity Committee. Once they find you guilty of any cause, then the ANC takes a decision whether to suspend you or to expel you. One of the prominent leaders of the ANC from the Western Cape was suspended from the ANC because he did a very unethical behavior. He now owns his own party. Another one was expelled. He now expelled another member of his party. So we are trying to ensure that we show ethics through the Integrity Committee. What we have done with the money that we went to get during COVID. One, we tried to get people funding through a social distress grant. The second thing was to ensure that we invest on health. The third thing was also ensuring that we support agriculture. The fourth thing was to support businesses. And the last part from what I have prepared is to balance the living conditions in the country. So those are the things that we wanted to focus on, and also to ensure that we do as it is expected. And the ANC, that is why it's very difficult sometimes to respond to other questions. Because the ANC is unlike any other party. We call ourselves a broad church. So anyone is welcomed to actually join the organization, especially if that person does not have any criminal or injustice kind of facts. So when we did the commission, which was led by Tadu Tutu, so we tried to get all these ones that were really doing injustice in South Africa. So if they said they were reformed, they were then allowed to join the African National Congress. But what is very funny is the fact that the person that asked the question, one person that knows very well that that party left the ANC because they wanted us to take this country back by barrel of a gun. And the ANC said, we cannot do that. We must ensure that we sit and make people to be safe when we do that. And we went and voted in 1994 and got the votes. And you must just read the policies of the ANC and the one of the DA, then you will see the difference. Thank you very much.
The DA? Thank you. I will start with the last question. Usisi was asking why don't a public servant specifically accused of a corruption? Why before HR processes and all of those things?
And if I understood your question correctly, is that, for example, Mr. Bika, lead a union. Now, unions, you cannot fire purely based on accusations. Innocent until proven guilty. So that's why there needs to be processes. And sometimes I know it's frustrating, especially why are we allowing this person to continue working? But we just need to strengthen our policies. I'll just say, I don't think it's possible. Let me give an example. I just accused Thomas for corruption. Now, immediately Thomas must be fired. What if I was just jealous of Thomas? So that's why it's a little bit tricky sometimes to immediately the accusation. That's why I was saying that our focus at the DA is to focus on strengthening NPA, strengthening e-justice, strengthening reinstating e-scorpion, so that the investigation process can at least catch all of these criminals. Then ethical leadership, I think my colleagues did answer that. And then the last question about EDA wanting to create at least 2 million jobs. And then majority South Africans. If you look at in terms of e-labor laws on public sector, non-South Africans are allowed, if they are qualified, to apply for services, commerce, or whatever public sector it is. However, you will see majority of the people employed in public sector are actually South Africans. Now, I'm sure you are also referring to like private sector, like e-farms, e-restaurants, and some e-factory and all of those things. Now, this one is a very tough one because the DA believes in the rule of law. The DA believes that if you come into a country, you must come legally. You cannot come illegal. We don't condone abantu or whatsoever. At the same time, the DA believes in equality. We know our past. We know what happened. We can't, for example, say for non-South African national must carry an equal pass so that we can be able to where exactly are you from. Then we are inventing the very same system that our parents fought for. Now, let's go back to the border. The reason why it's so easy to skip the border is that there's no border. And my colleague, this one, actually, Utelil was the minister. What big a small fence where you can even jump over it. Now, and then you're gonna come and then complain that no Abantu are, and again, Abantu are paying you bribes to put a post. Abantu are paying you 50 rands, and then now we need to ensure that Abantu, when they come in this country lawfully. And when if it's unlawful, they must be sent back home to reapply for immigration properly. Not this thing of building a Matingwan.
Just a response. Just to respond to that, isn't it so funny how literally 15 minutes ago he said to him, pull out the facts, I'm gonna pull out the facts. Exactly what? 15 minutes ago you said pull out the facts. And also, 5 minutes ago, you just said innocent until proven guilty, as well as saying do the process. And on top of saying we need to fund things like the SIU, NPA. Well, brother, the SIU case came out, and she is not guilty at all. All of those contractors are completely, all of the contractors that were hired were not hired by her when she was initially part of the PWI, brother. Get your facts straight. And on top of that, what is this nonsense to talk about service delivery? You want to talk about failed projects? Let's talk about ShotSpotter. Oh, we don't like talking about that. We like talking about crime, etc. But we don't like talking about how the DA spent X amount from the Western Cape education budget to basically go and put people into areas like LEAP officers, ShotSpotter, all of these technologies, etc., which are supposed to halve the crime rates in these areas. They've gotten worse in these areas. They have. 100%. Your boss also agreed with it yesterday. I will, my man. So, anyways, going back to the grant system. First of all, we initially had the SRD grant, which was at 350 and got raised to 370. Then we also have the old age grant, as well as the disabilities grant and the pensioners grant, which is at 2,180, I think. Then there's also the last one, 530 children's grant, yes. But the reason why, I'm just going to take this moment. So when we talk about these grants, it's easy to think, wow, number, where's this money come? Handouts, etc., that kind of mindset. But this 999 Rand that we are proposing is also exactly what my colleague said, where he said that 1,000 Rand is being spent on getting to work, getting that job opportunity. And that's what this grant is. As I said, it's about being able to have either the ability to not care and only focus on your basic necessities like electricity, food, etc. But it also gives you the chance to put away a little bit of money, if you have the chance, to put it towards that thing that can lift you out of poverty, that can also help you move from just working to live and living through your work because you're enjoying it. Thank you, yeah.
We now have a second round of questions.
Hi, good morning. To get a slight clarity on the issue of youth participation. It's great to see there's quite a few youngsters around here. The first challenge is that the level of communication is very low amongst the youth in our communities. Second is that I just want to all these parties that are here focus on that. The only question that I have is that how do we get this community to recognize how special this specific place is? I do not want to go to a situation where we say that all Africans, I'm not all, I include brown and whatever other color, all Africans that are classed in this province as secondary, because we only live for handouts. What you call these things is, what you call these houses? RTP houses. That's the only development that we're seeing. So one would go back and say, I've already finished the question. That there's the difference between the ANC and the DA, they're quite practically actually the same in terms of principle. Here, there's no history. What are you doing so that we can develop these kind of people that recognize where they're coming from? Because if you do not know where you're coming from, how are you going to see the brightness of the future? How are you going to do that?
hayi mandilema ndingajikeli kaloku
mandinibulise emva kwemini uxolele ndokuthetha ngesivo itolika ngapha kulo ya zawuza kuwe tata we-ANC xeshile ya nithi kanithetha umntu ongapha 35 akananasenako ukusebenza xa ngabe senakusebenza umdala uthela ungamnika igranti nje abantu abadala nithi nisinika 350 sekuthiwa seyi-70 wandiyazi zawundayifumana nithi iyasebenza isebenza njani le-350 yintoni eyithengayo nithi abantu abatsho banivotela njani kodwa nithi kangapha kwe-35 umdala
I would like to know from the Good Party and also the ATM Party. So in terms of the mineral resources we have in this country, as we all know, South Africa is leading in all the aspects, diamonds, gold, platinum, etc., etc. So what are your plans actually to improve our land and everything? Because we're also big in land. We have the biggest land mass, one of the biggest also. So what are your plans for that also?
My Vietnam.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the session. The question is directed to all the parties. I would like to get an understanding of what your foreign policies are And also, what is each party's position on the ongoing genocide in Palestine? And the next question is directed at the ANC. You speak of an ethical or integrity committee, etc., that expels people, suspends people from the party. Our president is still in the party, not expelled, and there has been. Why is he still there? What is the ANC doing about? Are they still investigating? Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. My question is that no for everyone. It's fine. I just want to know when they say they will take land for without compensation, the ATM and all. How they will do that to take the land without compensation, or else even the ANC can also dwell on that, because we have been waiting for a long time, since 30 years. It has been that they say they will take land without compensation. So the whole thing now is that now I want to know, because most of us here, we are living in small houses, 7 people in there. We have to share. The development is not that much, because we see to here. There are people who took out from squatters, and then the land was developed, and then at the same time they are brought back again. So how is that a development when you take someone out of the squatter and then put him back to a squatter?
My question is coming to ATM. As a new party, wow. And other new party came in 1994 and destroyed Yandala. The new party in 1994, which won the hearts of us as black and other people, came in power, destroyed all the factories in Gimbaza factories, and now they come saying the lack of employment, and came back to schools, because all the training schools for teachers, and then the schools without teachers. Now they're doing EBWPs of the teachers, taking grade 12 students to go and teach kids. Are you going to do that thing also as ATM and your party? Secondly, only 1 second, clarify the issue between the comrade and the servant. You said you're not the comrade, you are a servant leader, not a comrade leader. Just make it clear what can I do?
Manibulise ngiyavuba lapho. Ngicela singene kweli cala lezo shishino, ngakumbi kweli cala lithi small business companies or small, yeah. Ijongileyo endingayazi into ngaba abani kanye ugqityiwe na ukuba makuvulwe ikhampani, but ke ngoku andizukuya ku-ANC, ndizawuya phaa ku-number 2 kuba edolophini mna ndidila naye. Kukho into entsha efikileyo apha after ephumile la madoda kavula zibhuqe u-ANC uye into kokuba kukho indlela ethile yokwenza i-application yomsebenzi for tendering. Now into esiyifumeneyo thina phaa xa sifika kusuke izijemjem ezisuka kophala zafika zatshintsha indlela yokwenza kwamasipala, kwathiwa kwamasipala kukho i-database yobabhalisa sizosika
siletha abantu esizabasebenzisa kule term. Besikade si-100 ngoku umasipala ufuna abantu abayi-5 azosebenza ngabo kule 3 years only. Uzawukhulisa abo bantu umasipala. If wena ukokile wangabikho wa-over kwela nani uphumile automatically. Now usebenza kabantu bathathu kwigame ezayo futhi abantu bebekhaya akabakhuphi. Uthi ndifuna umuntu ole-experience more. Ithi ke ngo-skill ento izabuyela to the same person ebewinile last year. It means ke ngoku ngibona ikhona apha kakhulu mna le ndlela yokwenza kwayo i-DK kakhulu kwicala lezoshishino kuba ikhulisa icala elinye elalo mntu limaziyo, alimfuni umntu okhulayo ngakumbi omnyama. Enkosi.
Thank you. It was very irresponsible of you, okay, Ndibuza apha because I want to know. You can't say manofunda. Ndibuza kokheli nohluke ndawo kwi-DA when it comes to i-macroeconomic policies zenu. I want you to unpack that for us. Asizanga apha kuthiwa siyofunda. Okwesibini kokheli that correctly utsho uthi nini nibeke i-TRC to absolve our oppressors. Nabeka i-victims. As we speak today, okay, otikoko bangaphandle etrongweni. Amajoni apha webhayithi yakhe otikoko asetrongweni. So it means that the ANC prioritized the oppressed at the expense of the oppressed.
My question is about student funding, and it's directed to the three parties because the ANC say may say operate. So the question is, what's your plan on student funding? I think we've highlighted earlier that there are students who tend to get to do things that they did not want to do because of lack of funding from higher institutions. So what's the plan there?
Okay. Okay. Morweni. Ndinomnqa i-ANC ilawula iminyaka emininzi. Ndifuna uqonda apha kwi-ANC kutheni isilawula ngomthetho wasentshona.
I have a question that goes for now.
Okay, this comes from the people watching online. Okay, yeah, just so like it is directed to the DA. So how do you plan to address the perception that your party primarily serves the interest of wealthy and privileged rather than focusing the needs of South Africans? And also to all the, to the good as well as the ATM as their smaller parties. How will you prioritize the needs of ordinary South Africans over the political interest and personal agendas and ensure that the government is truly in the best interest of the country as a whole, not like the top two of the country? Thank you.
I can't. There's so many questions here. The question. Okay. In the interest of time, Sevens, I'll be trying to be very brief and straight to the point. In terms of the priority of citizens, the ATM is of the position that the ATM is of the opinion that, or it holds a position that we must prioritize South Africans, we push a slogan where you say put South Africans first. The ATM is also a self-funding party. It is not funded by the wealthy and the minority of the country. So our mandate comes from the smallest or the ordinary people of South Africa. Therefore, we are in a position not to compromise in any of our policies of ensuring that we cater to the needs of the majority of the country. The student funding issue, the issue of students is that we are supporting free education because we are of the opinion that even the funding of the NSFAS that is collapsing, it is deliberate because there are people that benefit from the collapse of the NSFAS because, for example, the issues that we are facing, majority of them, we hold the position that they are deliberate and there is a lack of political will to address the social issues and educational issues of their country. So we as the ATM, we are coming and saying that we have the will, we have the capacity, and we are ready to serve, and we are ready to come. The mineral resources of the country as well as the land, I think you came in late, but we said that we are going to expropriate the mineral resources of the country and for them to be actually to be processed here in South Africa and actually exported as finished products. That will then address the many issues that we're facing of unemployment as well as people that are benefiting only, or the resource of the country benefiting a minority of the of our country. The land issue also, we said that we are going to expropriate without compensation. The reason of the expropriation of land is for residential use, student accommodation, as well as food security. The youth disengagement, I think it was raised a question that side. Again, the youth disengagement in terms of the politics of our country as well as decision making and governance of our country is also deliberate. And it serves the interest of the ruling party where we have a youth that is just dependent or that is just looking forward to receiving grants, that is not going to vote and that is not going to, that is not actively holding the politicians accountable. The current ruling party holds themselves as celebrities of the people and not as servants of the people. So that is why we have a disengaged with, because they see that the politics that are currently prevailing are only serving the ruling party as well as their friends and family. That is why now we have a disengaged with. But as the African Transformation Movement, we're saying that we are going to introduce a citizenry that is patriotic. So in other words, you must be proud to be a South African, you must be proud to be a citizen of Kayamand, you must be actively involved to say, no, what are the decisions that are going to be taken by the council of this, municipality. You must be actively involved to say that we want to know how much budget is, how much the budget of the municipality, how is it going to be spent, how much is our lot allocated to this ward or to this ward councillor, how is the ward councillor going to be spending that money? In other words, we must also be involved as the youth, as the young people of Kayamandi to say that, ward committees, we are there, we are ward committee members, so that we know what is happening, so that we contribute to the direction of the country. On the issue of the Palestine and foreign policy, I think our position as African Transformation Movement is that, as we are saying that put South Africans first, we are also advocating that even the people in Zimbabwe, they are saying put Zimbabweans first. Even the people in Palestine are saying put the Palestinians first. Now that simply means that it is a situation whereby we don't support any oppression of one by the other, but we are supporting that every person in their country of citizenship, they must live in a free and fair and a happy and a prosperous country. And no country must be have dominion over the other. But I think I touched on all the questions.
Live. First of all, I'll answer the question that I just got told, which I'll basically say, which the internet basically just asked, how will you grow the party if your leader is a part of the ANC? So, I think anyone who has actually been watching us in Parliament will notice that we voted with the ANC, we voted against the ANC, we voted on policies with one party, we voted on voted on other policies with other parties. Just the last one that just came out, the Amendment Act, the Electoral Amendment Act, where the ANC snuck in their finances thing in there, we suddenly, we worked with all the other parties as well. The fact that Minister Patricia de Lille is a minister is because if you look at the quality of leadership right now in this country, it is very, very lacking. Patricia, as much as a Bainbridge fence scandal, which is not even a scandal because it's been cleared, can be tried to tarnish her name, has 30 years of history working for the SA Chemical Workers Union. She started from nothing and has been part of the struggle from day one. On top of that, when she was Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, she released more land than any minister in Public Works had before. Land question as well, the idea of spatial justice, as I said, is part of one of 4 pillars. And I think moving into the idea about minerals, because that's something that I'm very passionate about. And in the beginning, when my blurb came up, you could hear that one of my big passions is job creation and development of the country through rapid infrastructural development and a serious plan. Because here is a shocking fact. The most amount of money that has been put into by the private sector and public sector together to properly bring up this country's standards in terms of infrastructure development was for the 2010 World Cup. Now, I love football as much as the rest of you, and I might be a little bit sad this weekend because Tottenham Hotspur lost, but on top of that, I cannot see that in this room where we are talking about things like crime, things like unemployment, etc., that we are seriously not being able to just have the basic necessity in upgrading all of our infrastructure. And that's why things like mines aren't being as successful as they are. It's not because of the mine, it's not because of the fact that we're running out of the resources, it's because we don't have the transport to get that resources to where it needs to go. We don't have the trains that are running on the lines to transport the coal. And because of that, now trucks on the road, and more trucks on the road, therefore there's more transport issues, more accidents, more potholes, etc., etc. Then we get to the docks and we have a docking issue. So even now with all of the crisis that is happening in the Middle East, and I'll get on to that, we have thousands of ships that are diverting their routes, coming around the Cape of Good Hope, as well as there by Nelson Mandela Bay. And we are having to turn them away. We can't even host them because we don't have the facilities and structures. So when it comes to minerals, Good's position is actually try and get the rest of our structure around us correct. And then we can start worrying about what our big name plans are. Because, as you say, we have a wealth of resources, and the fact that we are not using them just shows that it's inefficient. South Africa is not a poor country. We broke SARS's record, people. The most amount of tax collected ever. We are not a poor country, we are a poorly run country. And then to address the foreign policy question, Good, first of all, Good put up a billboard saying that to free the occupation of Palestine in 2020. Nothing started on October 7th, and I can say that right now. And anyone with any idea about history will know that. And if you look at our policy, and if you look at the media that we put out and the ideas that we come forward, we have also been very strong in various other issues on foreign policy, like the absolutely disgusting homophobic death penalty as laws that have been permeating throughout Africa right now, the treatment of the West Saharan people in Morocco. We have multiple different crises that are going on, and I mean, we have wars. And when it comes to the Palestine case, I mean, the fact that there is 2 countries in the world that can have this much power and this much jurisdiction to hold this entire progress of what could be recognizing a new state and having peace and sorting out that issue immediately. And with that in mind, it's so hard for us to look at Americas, etc. like that, and hear that we must go through this democratic process that the West is, perpetuating and have to go through this process. Nonsense! South Africa will lead the way. We did it with the ICJ case, and we'll do it again. And when it comes to that, Good unequivocally stands behind the fact that social justice is not something that is for me or for thee, it is for all. And that is something that we care about. And therefore, we call again to end the brutal occupation of Gaza and 100% stop the suffering. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really got lost into some few questions. And I want to start with the Phala Phala issue. Everyone, when they want to, find wrongdoings from the ANC, they will always bring up Phala Phala and money that was, hidden under the couch, which is very interesting. But not any court of law has actually said the president was acting outside the law of South Africa. Up until then the Integrity Committee will act into it. We are clear about that. And for us to change Section 25 of the Constitution, we need 2/3 majority. Then we can actually amend Section 25. Then we'll be able to expropriate land without compensation. We have tried that. And when that was, implemented in Parliament, the very same person that was saying he's forcing the ANC to do it pulled out. And we do not have 2/3 majority as the ANC to change the constitution. So it's very important for us to actually make sure that we are ensuring that we act within the law of South Africa. Well, I don't want to lie. Kulento yobana abantu abamnyama, abantu more than 35 abafumani imisebenzi, abayifumani grant, andiyazi loo nto leyo. Kodwa into endiqiniseke ngayo, uba uyaqualifya for umsebenzi noba una-40 bekufanele uba uyaqasha. And ke ngoku xa sele ungaphangeli noba unangaphi, laa grant yenzelwe abantu abangaphangeli uyayifumana. Now kulula uphendula, but andifuna uba ndibe siphendulana yonke loo nto leyo, ngoba ngelinye ixesha mhlawumbi le nto uyithetha ibalulekile but ngendlela oyibeka ngayo ayibalulekanga. Now andifuni uba sithathe ingakumbi indlela laa mbutho waphuma ngayo kwi-ANC sizoxoxa ngawo apha. Laa mbutho ufuna uba kuliwe, kubethwa abantu abamhlophe. Sithi singumbutho ka-African National Congress, wonke umntu olapha eSouth Africa ubhilonga apha eSouth Africa xa enelungelo loba lapha eSouth Africa. Now asikwazi ukuthi ngenxa yoba uNkamisa esuka eZimbabwe enamaphepha ohlala apha eSouth Africa simbize ngenye indlela. Now kunyanzelekile into okokubana siqiniseke uba yonke into esiyenzayo siyawakhusela amalungelo wabantu. Uba ufuna ukulwa, asizukwazi ukuncedisa singu-African National Congress. Enkosi kakhulu.
You know what they say. Not
This is the end of our session, so I'll try my best to be brief. The last number that we've been here, we've been here for quite some time. To answer all of the questions which were asked. The first one about the history of Ikayamandi. I think the question you are asking is very, very important.
in terms of culture. I speak a lot sometimes with younger people and ask them, do they even know how Kaimandi was formed? How old Kayamandi is, and all of the history that we have here in Kayamandi. And I think it's one of those initiatives is that perhaps the guys at Let's Talk, perhaps they need to do similar engagements. The closest I saw into a sort of a history exhibition was in the Stellenbosch Museum, but again it was a town where they did an exhibition of all of the Dobbies of Stellenbosch, their history, when were they founded, the influential people and all of those things. And Kaibonia, like where it's just Kayamandi specific and it's here in Kayamandi. But I think it's something that we need to share with young people so that they can know these street names, Pasi, for example, who was Pasi, how was Pasi formed, and all of those things. Then on the very thorny question about the foreign policy, I think it was the lady from ATM, and I know that this is the one probably everyone was like, yeah, I want to get them on this one. Look, on the foreign policy, I must first say this. What is happening in Gaza is inhumane. The killing of mostly women and children, it doesn't matter what political party you belong in, doesn't matter what country you are, it doesn't matter if you are even scared of losing a job, if that means me. You need to say it's wrong. You simply cannot continue doing what is currently happening. In the same breath, I will say what Hamas did to Israelis, the murders, it was also wrong. We need to be able to say these were both wrongs, and we need to say then the fight must stop. There's no way that Israelis will bomb Gaza until then they feel satisfaction that, okay, at least those 1,300 people that were murdered by Hamas, it's over. That's why the GA is saying we need an immediate ceasefire. We need to bring in humanitarian support to come in because people are dying. We need to go back to the negotiations of the two-state solution. That's what the GA is standing on. And I fully agree with that statement. What is happening there is simply wrong. Okay, let me quickly rush to the other questions. The question about our view as a TA on expropriation of land without compensation, I think the TA is against that. I must say that. I'm saying it proudly. The TA is saying that Section 2535, which my colleague just quoted, allows municipalities, public service to actually expropriate land if it's for public good. Allows that to happen. So there's no need for us to reform the constitution in order now to say that let's expropriate land without compensation or whatsoever. It's going to really lead to the end of agriculture, for example. Agriculture requires capital investment. Why would you invest in a farm when you are not sure if Utomo tomorrow can come in and say, look, this is my farm now. So why should I do that? Where will the jobs go? Now we are solving a problem by creating even a worse problem. There will be no jobs, there will be even more chaos. We are saying that we understand the history of the past. We want people to be given land tenure. We want to advance land reform, but we are of the view that not through expropriation without compensation. On SMEs, on the question of SMEs, I must confess on this one, I'm not aware at all that our supply chain processes are saying that. I must confess, it's my first time, but as far as I understand, can help me on this one, is that the Auditor General report, which was tabled, sorry colleagues, can I just wrap up? The Auditor General report, which was tabled in Council, didn't raise any of such things, and I'm sure if there was a problem with our supply chain policies, surely the AG would have flagged it to say our supply chain policies are wrong. But I'm willing after this to exchange the contract, and then we can see, and I'll go back to double check exactly if what you're saying is true. If it's the case, then we'll correct it. If it is as we're saying, as far as I know, and then the question about the NSFAS, I think we'll see from the Action SA. About the NSFAS, I did actually in my opening remark to raise this issue. The reason why abantu abaninzi bengena zokuhlala eStellenbosch University and other universities is that NSFAS said this to universities, there's going to be a cap on housing allowance. You will have a specific amount of money which you will have, which you're going to pay for your housing. But that cap was
disconnected.
1, 2, okay.
Paired.
Okay, then continue. Then now, let me close on NSFAS. That cap, for example, colleagues, it was saying that
if you are outside of a metropolitan, you will be given by NSFAS a specific amount of money. If you are staying in a metropolitan, you will be given a specific amount of money. But they don't know how expensive rent is in Stellenbosch. So as a result, students in Stellenbosch University and Poland and everything cannot afford to stay in town center now. Now they must only stay either at Kayamandi, at Cruckersville, or the other peripheral. And the worst part is also that there's no public transport. So if Umdana goes to school, they need to use their own money. So that's why now the DA is saying that let's reform NSFAS. Let's decentralize the administration of NSFAS back to the universities, not by Pretoria. Let the universities be the one dealing with all of these problems. Then the last question about from online about e-perception yet DA bana gumbuto or 1010 that is for the privilege and all of those things. I understand that. I've heard that before when we are campaigning. I'm sure our colleagues will tell you this. Says two sometimes. But as far as I know, I don't think that's true. Because if you look at the DA's track record of delivering services, not only for but for everyone. For me, I don't agree at all with that. That's my view. I don't agree with that. We deliver services for everyone. We are the most diverse party in South Africa. Everyone is welcomed into the DA. Everyone is welcome. Viva Tejiba! Viva Tejiba! Okay. Order.
Okay, the person who put the committee. And then after a break, we will set me a operating with and let's go.
You play. You can't soup economy. Baba nje. Masingahambi yini tofana.
Kanina. Khona njani wena? Khona njani? Khona njani kanina?
Why they know white people in the
Baba basi.
Why they know white people in the
Kanina ndifuna uphosa apha yazi. Basa, iphosa njani le wena?
Iphosa. Yazi bayiphosa futhi.
Ngiphume. Kanina. Somla. Nganyiwe. Somla. Somla.
Hathi be live.
Ngifuna ubume nje iphosa.
Busy.
Bra, elungu. Oye, mlanga.
Ba ubuya kuphelile.
Limsa.
Can I pause the video what?
No, what you can do. Basa iphika njani le wena?
Nah, listen.
Uyaba concession yesibini.
Now X lo. Stay tuned.
X.
Yeah, ufuna iphelisa man.
Yalo.
Yeah, lo ngiyakubu.
Awucofe basa X.
Yeah, uphethe ngibani phone?
Ngabana. Mbasa. And
Obvious.